Hi everybody, in this video I just want to talk a little bit about measurements in fractions. So this is from chapter 2 in your text, and it just talks about some common measurements that we see. So the first one is that 1 yard is the same thing as 3 feet. The second, 1 foot is 12 inches. The third, 1 tablespoon is the same as 3 teaspoons. 1 pound is 16 ounces. 1 gallon is 4 quarts. 1 quart is 2 pints. 1 pint is 2 cups. And finally, 1 cup would be the same as 8 ounces. And just be careful, you do have some liquid measurements here, right, versus dry measurements and more distance and things. So we've just kind of a mix of common ones that we tend to see. So these are ones that you are going to want to memorize. And some you may already know, right? So most of you probably already know feet to inches, for instance. But if you don't know any of the others, you do want to start to memorize them. So my recommendation is as we get going in the course, when we start to come across conversions or things that you have to memorize, make yourself a little note card. And then that way you have it easily accessible for you to study. So I'm not always a huge note card person for everything, but for memorizing, they can be really helpful. So you really need to just memorize some things for this class. And this is one set that you want to start with. So the first example is how do we convert from 3.5 gallons to quarts? And you can see I already did this one out, but think about your units here. We're going from gallons to quarts. So if I look in my chart here, I do see gallons and quarts, and I see that 1 gallon is the same thing as 4 quarts. So what's happening here as we're going from gallons to quarts, we're really just multiplying by 4, right? If I have 1 gallon, that would be 4 quarts. If I had 2 gallons, then I would have 8 quarts, right? 4 plus 4. So it's really just a multiplication process here. And that's what I did. So if you see fractions, it's still going to work the same way. 3.5 gallons, we want to go to quarts, so you're just going to multiply by 4. Now, remember when you're multiplying, you do want to change your mixed numbers over to improper fractions. So that's the 7/2. And you do want to put your whole number over 1 just to keep it organized here. The other thing you'll notice I did is I did cross simplify here. So I looked diagonally and I saw I could divide both 4 and 2 by 2. So I did that. That left me with just 7 times 2 in the numerator and 1 times 1 in the denominator. So I had 14 quarts as my final result. And make sure you use units here. We don't want to just write 14 because especially when we're doing conversions, it's very easy to mistake what our final unit was. So we want to make sure we write that in. So to just summarize above here, you can use that same kind of process. So if I have to go from yards to feet, we're just multiplying by 3. If I'm going from feet to inches, we're multiplying by 12. If I'm going from tablespoons to teaspoons, we multiply by 3. If I'm going from pounds to ounces, we're going to multiply by 16. If I'm going from quarts to pints, we're multiplying by 2. From pints to cups, also by 2. And then finally, from cups to ounces, and again, here you're right, liquid measurement, you're going to multiply by 8. So let's do a couple more. Now, the next one we have here is 1/2 yards, and we want to go from yards to inches. So if you look at your table up here, you'll see I have yards, right? I have yards right here, but I have yards to feet. I don't have yards to inches. So there's lots of ways that you can do this. One way is just take it one step at a time. So I can go from yards to feet first, and then I do have feet to inches. So I'll just do 2 conversions here to make this happen. So I'm going to start by doing 4.5 yards, and I do want to go to feet first. So 1 yard is 3 feet. I'm going to multiply by 3 there. And again, we're going to change this to an improper fraction. So 9/2 times 3/1. Nothing to cross simplify here. So it's just going to be 27/2. And this was in feet. Oops, sorry about that, guys. I'm going to leave the improper fraction for now because I'm not done and it's easier to work with improper fractions. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. And then I'm going to go from 27 over 2 feet. And now I'm going to inches. And if you scroll up and look at your chart, feet to inches is times 12. And again, that would be the same thing as 12 over 1. So here I can cross simplify. I can divide these both by 2. That gives me 6 here and 1 here. And I've already done this out, but you'd use your calculator here. 27 times 6 is going to be 162. 1 times 1 is just 1. So we have 162 inches as our final result. All right, so I want to do a couple more examples. And I want you as well, as you're going through the video, if you find that you want to pause the video and try some of the examples on your own and check your work, that's a great idea. So I'm going to put this off camera, but I am going to keep my common measurements with me throughout the video. I'm just going to have it off camera here. So as I'm referring to things, you refer to your list as well. And again, that's where a note card just comes in really helpfully, that you can just have that with you. And you can kind of keep that stack. So for each exam, you'll have your little stack of note cards, and then it'll be all ready for the final too. You can keep reviewing all those conversions for the final. So for the next one, we're going to do 15 1/2 cups going to ounces. And again, if you don't have these memorized yet, that's okay. You're going to get there. Cups to ounces is times 8. So we're going to take that 15 1/2. We're going to multiply it by 8. Here would have 30 and then 1. So 31 over 2 times 8 over 1. And I can do some cross simplifying here, divide those both by 2. And then I have 31 multiplied by 4, which is 124 over 1. So 124 ounces. Okay, let's do a couple more and we'll do some more challenging ones this time. Let's say I have 1 1/3 quarts. And I want to go to something in cups. So here, if I look again at my chart, I have quarts to pints, but I don't have quarts to cups. So I can go from quarts to pints and then from pints to cups as well. So I'll do it in 2 steps here. So if I go back to that chart to go from quarts to pints, we're multiplying by 2. 1 quart has 2 pints. So we're multiplying by 2 here. That gives me 16/3 multiplied by 2 over 1, which is 32 over 3. And again, because I'm not done, I'm just going to leave the improper fraction. It's much easier to work with. And now I'm going to go from pints to cups. And again, this is also a multiplier of 2. 1 pint has 2 cups. So 32 over 3 multiplied by 2, which is 2 over 1. I don't have anything I can cross simplify here, so I have 64 over 3. Now, this is correct. I would try to simplify this if I can. There's nothing I can do. But I would probably convert this back over to a mixed number. 64/3 is kind of an awkward number. Most people won't know what that is. So I'm going to go ahead and convert that back over. So 3 goes into 6 2 times, which is 6. Bring down the 4. 3 goes into 4 1 time. And then I have a remainder of 1. So this is the same thing as 21 1/3, and we were looking at cups here. Now, if you're having trouble with that long division, again, you can use, find my calculator here, your calculator to help you. So what you can do is you can just take out your basic calculator and just do 64 divided by 3. And you can see that's where that 21 comes from. So you have that 21, and then if you do 21 multiplied by 3, you can see you get 63. So that's where the remainder 1 comes from, right? 64 to 63 is a change of 1. So that's another way you can do it if you're using your calculator and struggling a little bit to do it out longhand. All right, and let's do one more example here. So I have 4 1/4 cups. Okay, so I have 4 1/4 cups, and I want to go to pints this time. So in this case, if we look at our chart, I have pints to cups right here, so I do have that conversion. But when I was multiplying, I was going from pints to cups, right? 1 pint gave me 2 cups. So that was a ×2 multiplier. So going from pints to cups was multiplied by 2. Here I want to work backwards though. So instead I'm trying to go from cups to pints. So if you're working backwards in that table and you're going kind of from a larger value, like 2 down to 1, then do the opposite. Instead of multiplying by 2, what you're going to do is you're going to divide by 2. So you can use that chart here as well. Just think if you're going backwards, right? If I'm going from pints to quarts or quarts to gallons, you're using a division instead. So this becomes 4 1/4 divided by 2. So that's 17/4 divided by 2 over 1. Now don't forget division changes to multiplication, and we're going to go ahead and flip that second fraction, take that reciprocal. And then I have 17/8 there. Now we can go ahead and change this over. You can start doing some of these in your head. So 8 goes into 17 twice, which would be 16. But I need 17, so I'm missing 1. So my remainder is 1 there. So 2 1/8, and just keep in mind these are pints. Now this does make sense, right? Again, think about it. You're going from cups to pints, and it's 1 pint per 2 cups. So it does make sense that you have sort of less or fewer pints, right? Because it's a bigger unit. So you're going from 4 1/2 cups to 2 1/8 pints, again, because the pint is a bigger unit than a cup is. So that number makes sense. So a couple things to keep in mind here as you're going through these. So don't forget units. We all do. I know I do too sometimes. But with conversions, it's really easy to lose track of your units. So just get used to writing them down, particularly at each step if you have more than one step. So don't forget your units. And the other thing is make sure you always simplify. Or reduce your fractions. So for instance, you're checking that final 1/8. Can I simplify that anymore? Or you're checking that 1/3. Can I simplify that anymore? So we didn't have too many. We had a little simplifying here, but not too much. But just make sure your final answer is always in that most simple form. And that's really what you want to use there.